what would be kind of like your biggest piece of advice for women out there who are trying to figure out what's next for them as well, and kind of in a career transition, maybe thinking about working from home, but just generally thinking about what's next? What would be your biggest piece of advice?
I would say have a forward thinking, like worst times don't last forever. Good moments as well don't last forever, but you can dwell on them and keep them with you. Like, if your kid does something, you keep that and you're like, oh my God, I remember seeing his smile. You can hold on to that. That's a great moment. But as well as, if you have a bad moment or a bad day, it's not gonna last forever. If it seems like, oh my God, my mortgage, I cannot pay for it today, don't worry, it's not going to be this way forever. I remember in my 20s, I said, God, look, I'm having a kid. I want to lend people money. I don't want to borrow anymore. I don't want this to be my situation. And now today, as we're speaking, I don't borrow money from people. It's not my definition. I lend people money. I have the opportunity to help folks when I want, but you have to define what you want. And it's a forward thinking. Like, you may not be doing it today, but if you have a 10-year thinking, life can change for you in 10 years. Life can change in 3 years. But I think if we don't have, you need to build a forward thinking. What does life look like 3 years from now? Like, in your situation, you might be a single mom. I was. I'm like, oh my God, a college graduate, a single mom? Like, how? Like, this is not supposed to be the story, right? But it was a moment in time. It was. But then you got to go pick up yourself, snap back and say, so, well, what is my story? And then you create it and you're like, look, I want to be married. I want more kids. And then you go from there. Or if you're right now, you're homeless. I don't know why I'm bringing this up. I was. And I'm like, God, sleeping in my car? What is going on? College graduate sleeping in my car? Wake up. And you're like, I don't want this to be my story. But it's my story right now. It will be part of my testimony, but that's not who I am, right? And then you rewrite that. Look, I will be a homeowner. I will have more than enough money. I will lend, but I will not borrow. What is those things that you tell yourself? But you have to have a forward thinking. I mean, as I was talking to myself about those things, I was back in 2018, 17 when I was pregnant with this one. But now we're in 2022. That's a completely scenario. If you look at me, you will not know that was my story. But I had to rewrite it because in that instant, poor me, poor me, poor me. And then you have to look, there's people here to help you. Just because you ask for help does not mean you're weak. There's people that are there to empower you, lift you up, tap on their shoulders, have those conversations, but then also write your story because you're still writing. Turn the page, continue reading, because tomorrow, that same story, you can tell it to empower someone else. If you're feeling or you're going through anything, girlfriend, I've been there. As a college graduate, I'm like, oh my God. But I think for me, thank God I was away from my hometown. If something's happening, like all of this was happening when I was away from home, and my mom's like, girl, parents can feel things. She's like, if something's not happening right for you, come back. But I told her, look, if I had come back sooner, I would have not met my husband. So I had to go through that. I had to go through that struggle, that, homelessness, that scenario, being a single mom out of nowhere with no family member. But you can have other people around you to put their arms around like angels. Like my neighbor, who I saw her because I was downstairs watching and doing laundry, she's like, are you pregnant with your little belly? And she's like, if you ever need help with babysitting, let me know. I'm like, I'm not gonna let her babysit my kid. I don't even know her. She became a family to me. She took care of my son like it was her own. And people were like, girl, if you ever need diapers, anything like that, you name it, you don't even have to say anything. I'm like, what? I don't even know this lady. So there's angels around to help you, but you have to see it. Honestly, if you look for the bad things, you'll find it. If you look for the good, you'll find it. But you have to have forward thinking because this will not be your story forever. My thing is I accept help in my trouble times because I know it was not going to be my story. There will be a day where I will be able to pay that forward. So I pay it forward by, donating now. I talk to other moms. I'm part of other groups and I'm being a good member of society. I'm working, I'm paying my taxes. So just because you're in government assistance today does not mean that will be your story tomorrow. Honestly, the story continues with a forward thinking.
Oh, wow. That is so powerful. One, thank you for sharing that. And two, I'm sorry you had to go through that, but you radiate strength. You really do. And positivity, and you inspire me. This is like, you're right. When you're in it, it's amazing as humans. We can get mired in our circumstances and feel like things are never going to change. And I think your wisdom that you shared here is just so so brave. So thank you. Really beautiful. It will make a difference to so many people, so many women, I'm sure.
But you know what? Being a single mom, I had a blast. I mean, I wouldn't tell her to go through that journey alone, because I didn't. Like, God sent multiple people from different angles to support me, to empower me. Honestly, I think forward thinking is key, because like, you can cry in your situation, and it's good to cry. I had those nights. And then you have to know, like, hey, this is not going to be my story forever.
I'm so happy for you too. Like everything you're doing with Make It From Home and your entrepreneurial journey, in addition to learning SQL and transitioning into tech, like you've made some amazing moves, and I'm so excited to follow your career, follow you as a LinkedIn influencer, because that's also happening too. I know it. So I cannot wait to see what is to come for you. Alencia, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure and truly an honor to have you. Thank you for sharing everything that you did.